Age of Swords is the second book in the Legends of the First Empire series, and continues in the tradition of including many Easter eggs for readers. So today, we are going to cover 10 Easter eggs in Age of Swords. This video will have spoilers not only for Age of Swords, but also for the rest of the Legends of the First Empire series, along with Fariliane, Esrahaddon, and Heir of Novron. Let's get started. When Persephone is trying to figure out what to call the dwarves, they state they are called Belgliglungrians, but since that is so long, she proposes shortening that to just bells, to which they reply, "We don't jingle." On the surface, this seems to be a joke about the dwarves not liking the suggestion, and them having invented bells while the runes have not. But there is a secondary meaning here as well. The dwarves are made up of 7 clans, which do not always get along very well. One of those clans are the Bells, and since Frost, Flood, and Rain are all from the Nye clan, they would certainly not like being called Bells. Early in the story, Roan is working on a brace for Gifford's lame leg. During their first test, the brace works, making Roan smile. This makes Gifford smile back, and he thinks about how the brace is like magic armor. This Easter egg comes full circle again in Age of Death when Gifford compares Roan to the legendary dwarven inventor Alberic Berling, who is literally about to craft magic armor for Roan and Gifford. The dwarven brothers Frost and Flood have quite a bit of funny banter with one another throughout the book. During one rant, Flood states, "My name isn't Shirley," a reference to the joke made famous by the movie Airplane.
Can you fly this plane and land it?
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
When talking about swords, Flood is telling Wraith about different metals the dwarves use. He specifically mentions black bronze, which is generally used for statues. This is a bit of foreshadowing for later in the series, when the sword created for the purpose of killing Wraith and his Galarabrin is made of black bronze. Each of the rune clans have their own deity which they worship. We learned about some of these in Age of Myth, but this book introduced 3 more. Clan Melon has Kroon, Clan Tyr has the water deity Araphis, and Clan Nadak has Rasra. At first, these may seem like random names, but after the book Esrahaddon was released and we managed to get a map of the ancient world, we now have some ideas where many of the rune god names originated. Each of these seem to correspond with different locations from the world in which the runes migrated. While Imali may not have the best intentions for Mwandale, she does give him some interesting advice. "You're a good person, Mwandale. That's why you feel guilt. It's when you no longer feel that nagging sense of doubt, that pain of regret, that it's truly over for you." And while Mwandale does go down the villain track for the rest of the series, over 2,000 years later, in the book Esrahaddon, we see Mwandale still having doubts when he thinks, "Has it all been my fault? Has my single-minded need for revenge against long-dead ghosts ruined me?" The question rocked him as he stood outside the throne room door. But he then quickly shut down those thoughts. None of this was his fault. This scene illustrated that Mwandale had finally closed the door on what Imali believed meant he could have been a good person. While reassuring Nephron, Malcolm tells him that he will be known as Nephron the Great. This becomes true later when in multiple series we see that those exact words are written above his tomb. When Bryn is reading the tablets in the Agave, she states that the Ancient One's name was the Three. This is a translation error by Bryn, as we would later learn that the Ancient One is actually a character we have already met, Trylos. Bryn was mistaking the common tri prefix to mean 3. In one of the Book of Bryn excerpts, Bryn is talking about Tesh and states, "No one could have guessed what he would become. I know I did not." This is of course referring to the fact of how Tesh would become the greatest human fighter, which would eventually spawn the Teshlor Knights. It is the last part of the statement that is easy to miss, Bryn stating that she specifically did not know what he would become. This is because she is actually referring to something completely different. She is instead referring to how her and Tesh would become a couple. Wandelay recalls when he was 25 and placed his hand on the door in the garden. He thought that perhaps what was on the other side was something so not paradise that it had to be locked away. When we finished the series, many people thought it was just his childhood mind making things up, as on the other side of the door is the sacred grove and the dead husk of Riyria. But years later, when Esrahaddon came out, we learned that Riyria was locked away in the grove not to punish Turin, but because she was infected by chaos, making Wandelay's thought much more accurate. Thank you so much for watching today's video. Be sure to subscribe and watch my other videos to learn more about the world of Elan and Riyria. Thanks!